Now, today is Nelson Mandela Day, and it comes at a time when many South Africans may be looking at the state of their nation and wondering what the world's favourite revolutionary would make of it. The jailing of former South African President Jacob Zuma earlier this month sparked widespread riots and looting, with well over 100 people killed. It's the worst unrest seen in post-apartheid South Africa. So where does the Rainbow Nation go from here? I'm joined now by equality campaigner and the eldest daughter of Nelson Mandela, Dr. Makaziwe Mandela. Good morning, Dr. Mandela. What is the message of Nelson Mandela Day?
The message of Nelson Mandela Day is about working together to address the inequities, to address poverty, to do everything as individuals to create a better life for somebody else. That's the message of Nelson Mandela Day, because no one person, no one organization can actually be able to address the social injustice, the poverty that is in society. You need a lot of people to come together, individuals, organizations, government, to try and change this world to be a better place for all.
We're a long way from the action that you're seeing, some of it extremely unpleasant. We'll come to that in a moment. But what would you like people out here in Europe and North America to be doing to celebrate this day?
I think for me, Trevor, as I look around the world, we have the COVID, which is plaguing a lot of people. And just as I listened, a lot of people are losing their jobs. And there's a resurgence of racism and ethnicism around the world. I think COVID has exacerbated the inequities in society. And I think Nelson Mandela Day is about reminding us of the challenges that are ahead of us. And I think for me, COVID-19 has shown that humanity is capable of actually helping each other to try and create a better environment society. And that if we are not going to work together and hold hands, whether it's in the sort of rich north and emerging south or the west, we all need to work together. Basically, I think that's the message of Nelson Mandela International Day.
Well, you talked about the scourge of COVID, and over the last year, it has been the greatest challenge to South Africa. And across Africa, actually, infections have surged by about 43% in the space of a week. What does Africa and South Africa in particular need in order to be able to meet that challenge now?
I think the most important thing, as we have realized, is that we need vaccines. And because the rich West or North has actually bought all the vaccines, the emerging economies have very little of the vaccines. The social distancing, I think South Africa did well in the first phase of COVID, and to some extent, a little bit better in the second wave of the COVID. But that third wave is becoming more brutal on society, mainly because, we have a lot of people who are in poverty, don't have the same access to health. And, vaccines are very scarce around the world. And so we are faced with multiple challenges in South Africa. And the world could help Africa in terms of vaccine and allowing some of the vaccines to be manufactured in Africa.
Can I turn to some more divisive issues? We've seen over the last year a wave of concern, anxiety, protest over racism. A year ago, the whole world was talking about Black Lives Matter. What do you think your father would be saying about all of that were he alive today?
I think my father would be repeating what he said when he was alive, that the struggle is not actually complete and that we should not tire. We should press on to fight racism with everything that we have in our might. and that there needs to be much more dialogue on racism because it's plaguing the whole world. America, UK, South Africa, we still have a lot of after effects of apartheid that we're feeling. It's in Europe. I think my father would be saying, we've got to all put our heads together and fight this scourge of racism until it ends.
Let's turn to South Africa itself today. I was on television doing this job many years ago when your father came out of Pollsmoor prison, and I commentated on it with Thabo Mbeki, who became his deputy and the first president. And I don't think on that day anybody imagined, though we knew things would be difficult, that South Africa would be where it is today. The question I really want to ask you is this. For the last 27 years, the movement that your father and Oliver Tambo created, the African National Congress, has been in government. How much of what is happening today is the ANC's responsibility?
I would say all of it is actually the responsibility of the ANC. The ANC seems to have forgotten why it came into power. It came into power mainly because it wanted to improve the conditions and lives of Black people who have been impoverished, their dignity taken away by the apartheid regime. Political freedom was never enough. My father knew it, they knew it. And we cannot leave the economy that supported apartheid to be intact because there is no way, therefore, to redress the inequities of the past and address the conditions of the poor. I mean, if you look at the conditions of the poor in South Africa, who are mainly Black, it has not improved. Alexander, where my dad stayed when he came to Johannesburg, is still the same. It has not improved. Simple things like providing adequate housing, water, clean services has been something that this government has failed actually our people in terms to deliver. And so what is happening right now is squarely in their hands. As my father said before with apartheid, they cannot go on forever looking at peaceful means and the government doesn't hear. Those who are poor, who have not benefited from what I call the post-apartheid dividend, have been poor for more than 300 years. Their father, their generations, their grandfather, their great-grandfather. How long should they wait until conditions improve for them? Nobody, Trevor, I want to assure you, wants to see South Africa in a situation of violence. But unless South Africa squarely address the issues of poverty and inequity, youth unemployment, which is hovering at about 74%, South Africa will see more of this violence occurring more and more.
Dr. Mandela, thank you very much indeed. I hope today is a good day for you, at least.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Trevor.